because it's just our shit.
You're trying to make it sound really like
shitty thoughts. Our flatulent thoughts.
Well, they're not shitty. They're flatulent.
They're not shitty, but I'm just saying our bullshit.
They're a bit smelly.
I bet you he don't do that.
I bet you he clean up after his puddles.
I bet you he licks her off the toilet. No, that's too far. Too far.
It's a little scatty. Yes, that's a little scatty.
Well, I mean,
Where's the trust? Not the trust. The trust is in my asshole. That's where it's at.
You told me, like, just the first thing.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is your boy Emmanuel, Manny, whatever you want to call me by. This is episode, I have no idea, Manpisode. I think it's the fourth or third one. I haven't been keeping track. I just record them and I put them up for you guys to enjoy. Once again, this is the Flatulent Thoughts podcast. So today I have a very special guest. All right. His name is Jarred Skoot Sammons. All right. He's been a 10-year veteran and has been involved with games like Call of Duty 4, Ring of Elysium, Apex Legends, Battalion 1944. You got to make sure you follow him on Twitch at SK00TN. Again, that's SK00TN. Also, is his Twitter. He is also one of the co-hosts of the Crucible Cast podcast. Am I saying that correctly? Crucible Cast podcast. Welcome.
Well, it's good to be here.
Nah, thank you for coming.
I picture in that intro, it's just like the Microsoft Sam voiceover with the episode number.
I do these stuff like off the top of my head. I don't really put a lot of thought into it. Probably a few of my listeners probably hate it because it's like, well, I mean, we want to know. But at least I make sure that I put it on the title, I put it on the description. That way, when they click on it, they know what they're getting. But as soon as they start listening, they're like, oh, God, here we go again.
There goes Manny again with his nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a professional radio person. I'm doing this out of like my living room. Like I'm just trying to have some fun here. But also trying to teach and trying to explore certain topics, and that's what we do here, Flatulent Thoughts.
Of course.
Listen,
I'm a long-time listener. Like I've seen your other episodes. I really do enjoy it.
I appreciate that.
It touches on some topics that a lot of people, not especially in this day and age, are almost uncomfortable to talk about, right? Like like dating in general, it's almost taboo outside of like your specific friend circle, and I'm glad that you guys are shedding light on that.
Right. I mean, one of the things that I've shared with a lot of our guests here and a lot of people who've talked to me about it is the fact that they ask me topics on like, oh, your podcast is called Flatulent Thoughts. Do you want to like? That means you're gonna just run out your mouth and talk about every little thing out there in the ecosystem. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not. I'm only gonna talk about things I've experienced, things that I feel that are relevant to stuff that I've done. Like I don't like speaking about things that I've never done, I've never experienced, because it just wouldn't be fair and it wouldn't be very authentic. Honestly, like I would love to do an episode on threesomes and orgies, but I have never been a part of one. I've never even been in a room with one. So, well I don't know.
Not with that attitude.
Hey, listen, I gotta I have a partner here that I gotta convince. So until Rosie is ready for that, I gotta just kind of wait. But no, it's one of those things where I've gotten a few requests to do like episodes on gender and a few episodes on that other stuff, and I'm just like, listen, I don't know anything about that. Fine, we all have our opinions about all that stuff, but until
if anything, that could be good like investigative journalism pieces.
No, my whole approach is let me find someone who wants to talk about that and that has. And which is, which leads us to you. Like, I wouldn't be feeling comfortable doing this episode unless I have someone that's in the trenches, who's been, like I mentioned before, you've been doing this for 10 years. Like,
yeah.
Almost
15.
Exactly. So, I can't, I feel now comfortable to just talk about this whole gaming thing. Because even though I've done it, I've played, I have never played on a professional level. I am not that good. And to really know the time that you guys spent and do spend in the professional and in the trenches, and how that impacts your day-to-day lives, which then leads us now to the topic at hand. So we're going to be speaking about gaming as a profession, but also its impact on the dating lives of these professionals. What do you feel? Well, first ask you. You know, you've been in the field for 10 years. Well, 10 plus years. I'll say that a few times, so don't mind me.
Well, I'm not really counting. It's just, you know, for posterity's sake.
Okay, I mean,
because I'll be honest, like, I'm 27 years old now. I started taking video games seriously around the age of 15, 16 as a outlet for competition. Like, I grew up in a very rural area of like farmland, coal mines in eastern Kentucky. You grew up playing a standardized sport in high school, in middle school, in elementary, and that was your outlet for competition, right? I got hurt with a quote-unquote career-ending injury my freshman year of high school, and I needed to find a competitive outlet. Otherwise, I was just going to be a nightmare to be around. So I kind of that's around the time that I really discovered video games as a outlet for competition, and that's what kind of really drove me into this kind of lifestyle. Really, it's been an interesting ride so far, for sure.
That being said, though, what is your current status of dating? Like, what do you do? What are your go-to spots? Do you even consider it? Like, is this something that's in your field?
Well, I think as of now, I would still label myself as single. Like, there's a couple of choice women that I do interact with, but I still would label myself as single. It's a lot of online dating, to be honest.
When you say online, is it based on? Because I'm from the era that I used to online date, but my online dating was actually using, like, I don't know if you remember this, but MySpace, like, there's one before MySpace which was called Skonex. Like, I'm actually old enough to know these things that it kind of makes me feel creepy to talk about certain people about this, because it's like, wait, what? MySpace?
Oh, no, I remember MySpace. I remember MySpace.
So those used to be the online dating for me, like, and
right.
Now they got apps, so it's kind of different. It's like
I'd say even to like this day, I'd still say it's like a mixture of both. Well, it's not so much MySpace now, obviously. It's more, it's more like Facebook.
I still got my MySpace account. That's all right.
I think I still do too. I think you still look me up on MySpace. It plays music automatically still.
Got the
you remember that?
Fully customized profile, man. You get your own colors, own themes.
Back in MySpace days, everybody knew like front end web development to make their fucking thing play music.
Yeah, people will learn.
Can I swear on here?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm surprised it took you so long.
Yeah, I'm usually on my best behavior.
No, full curses is fine. It's an explicit podcast, so we talk about dildos, buttholes, and all that stuff. So.
Oh yeah, the big two, dildos and buttholes.
Yeah. So.
But no, it's still a mixture of the social media aspect of dating as well as apps.
Right.
Yeah. But
one thing that I in part I could realize that I'm partially blessed and partially that I haven't gotten a chance to use it. Dating apps. I haven't got the pleasure of ever using one. I've only heard
Tinder and Bumble.
Yeah. I've only heard stories. But then also consider that I'm kind of lucky that I never had to use one, because I've heard also horror stories attached to those things.
Oh yeah, it can definitely be a double-edged sword for sure.
And just, I guess, clear the air, and to, I guess, no, since I asked you the question, I guess I'll answer the same question, was like my current state of dating, which I know most of my listeners probably already know, but I'm in a long-term relationship, which means that I've been with the same woman, for about 13 and a half years. We've been in fully committed relationships. as far as I know, she's never dated. She's never cheated on me, but she may have to, investigate that issue. But I have never cheated on her, and we've been exclusive towards each other. So it's been, it's been a long ride. And for anyone out there, we're pretty much married. It's exactly what it damn feels like. It's just different. But yeah. So now that we've played that out the way, what have your experiences been when it comes to being taken serious? Since you like you said, you started since you was 15.
Right.
Here you are, 26, 27. I forgot.
27 now.
27. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Almost 30.
Yeah,
pushing 30.
we're old.
Hey, I just hit 30. I just hit 31. I already feel it. My knees is giving out.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So what's your been struggle, man? Like being taken serious, both professionally, both by family members, dating, whatever the case may be.
Well, I think first off, I don't think it's a lifestyle for everybody to try to do the whole esports and competition route, or even like content creation in this day and age. It's definitely a risk, but if it's something you're passionate about, it's I was always told growing up that if you're doing something you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
With that said, it is a series of almost like semi-seasonal work. If that makes sense. It's like to keep myself afloat, because obviously I don't make enough right now to be a comfortable living from content creation.
Amen.
Tournament winnings and stuff like that. So my approach to it, and everybody has their own, I guess, tonic really to achieve their goals, right? And my approach is, I'll work construction or jobs that I'm qualified for, whether that be like I have a mechanics degree. I'll go work in a garage for a little bit, and then I'll save up that money so that I can take time off again working to focus on my passion, really, which is the further development of video games in the sense of both competitively natured and for content creation purposes, whether that be like streaming or YouTube. Here's to hoping that 2020 is a good year and I can do it full time and not have to take these extended breaks to go back to work or go back to school. But it does promote, it does like implement some distinct challenges when it comes to dating per se. I would compare it pretty easily to working from home. Like if you're working from home, you're not like interacting with coworkers on a face-to-face level. You're not getting the same type of human interaction that you would if you were doing like a 9 to 5 in an office setting, right? So it's not so much that like you're looking at your coworker, your pool of coworkers for dating purposes, but more so for like networking, right? Like especially like in a rural setting like where I'm at, a lot of dating through like high school and college was just you meet friends of like your friends' girlfriends, right? And now that like we're all adults and all of my friends are either married off or moved away or what have you, right? It's like you kind of lose a sense of like an avenue for meeting new people. And I think that's really when it comes to when it comes down to like establishing connections, both if you're both looking for like a relationship, whether that be like casual dating or long-term relationship or just like a casual hookup, the less likely you are to meet new people, the less likely you are to have success like down that road.
So I want to highlight two things you said that I think is very important. The first thing is the concept of doing this type of work, whether it's esport, whether it's content creation, podcasting, etc., for the pursuit of money. I don't think anyone out there that does this long term can sit there and say, yeah, reason I started doing this is because I want to make $1 million. Right. If you're in it for that reason, please, if you're listening to this, just stop. Just stop.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's like a just stop. I think there's definitely like we live in a world where second chances are pretty valuable, and I think it's more of like if you're going about it in a way to make a living, it's more so that you need to readdress your priorities, right?
That's a good way to put it.
It's not like you can't go into it thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be the next Shroud," right? You've got to go into it. Shroud is he's a former competitive Counter-Strike player.
Okay.
That he transitioned into full-time content creation, and I don't have specifics on the latest deal that he signed, but for content creation in a streaming platform where, you know, he started off with Twitch, he just signed a exclusivity deal with Mixer, which is Microsoft's streaming platform.
Okay.
And
okay.
The rumor is tens of millions of dollars.
Okay, that's pretty good. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, for playing video games for a living. Yeah. That's the dream.
I mean, content creators at this day and age are now what you would formerly consider content producers, or when you would watch a TV show and you see the little credits come up, executive producer and co-producer and all these little credits. Those jobs are now being given to people like you and me, people who are just sit on their ass sometimes, and they have an idea like, hey, listen, you know, it'd be funny, you know, it'd be cool, you know, what if I just do this, and they just start doing it. Next, you know, they catch a flame, and then it just ignites throughout the ethos of the internet, and now everyone could be a producer, everyone could be a executive producer of a content that makes them unique for themselves. And, you know, I forgot the guy's name, but that's just that's one of many examples of like that shit being taken serious.
That's the beauty of like modern technology, right? It's like if you're in a position where you have the resources, the time, and the internet connection, you could be the next, you know, internet sensation, really. If you're willing to put in the time, and if you're producing the content that is easily digestible or fills a niche that no one else is touching on. And I think that's a beautiful ecosystem to be working in.
Not only that, it has to be original to you. It can't be even though I'm sure there are people out there that have been successful by reproducing content that other people are doing. So it's kind of like a repost kind of situation where people are gaining, what I'm looking for, like, take the example of reality shows. If one person makes a reality show, then let's say another channel is making a reality show, and so you catch the residuals of that need of more reality shows. Where if you duplicate one person's, let's say one person is streaming Ring of Elysium, then another person streams Ring of Elysium, you may have the residual people who may wanna just pick up more content of that particular game or topic. And so you may do that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it speaks to great volume that if you cannot create content that speaks both for your soul and your personality, oftentimes it's not going to resonate well with your listeners, because they're going to look at it like, oh, this looks kind of funny. Like he don't seem like he's too into it. Like, it just doesn't seem like, you know, it's just, so it feels weird for some reason when you watch it or when you consume it.
I think when it comes to, especially like gaming, more so than like other forms of entertainment, it's not so much that your viewer base comes for the specific game you're playing. Like, there's so many times that like you can pull viewership playing a game that everybody else is playing, right? It's an oversaturated market. But if you're bringing things out in your own personality and you're being yourself in the sense that like you're doing it for your own enjoyment, that alone will attract viewership, because you're having a good time and you're creating a good atmosphere. Right.
So back to the question, you know, and I'm just curious as to what has been your experience with like telling other people, whether, you know, whoever.
Well, I usually don't like. It's not that I'm ashamed of what I do because I am very passionate about it. But it's not so much that I start off with saying, "Oh, I play video games professionally." It's more so that I approach the subject as I make content, which is more accurate to what I do nowadays, rather than hopping from game to game to play tournaments. I play games that I enjoy playing nowadays, and more so focus on just being able to give back to the community in a sense of whether that be videos or streams that are both like informative or entertaining. So my answer has definitely evolved over the years. I did start off saying like, oh, I play games professionally, I compete in tournaments and travel and all of that, to now it's more of oh, I live stream and create content based around gaming is usually my go-to. Now, it is very different, the type of responses you get to that. It's a little bit more complex than saying like, oh, I play tournaments on video games and that supports me. It's more of a like an intriguing dynamic. Like it's something that, especially like where I'm at geographically, something that's not like super duper common. And if anything, it does attract more questioning. Now, if that evolves more into just like a regular conversation or like a dating prospect, now that kind of varies based on other things, right? But it definitely it's like a double-edged sword. Like you do have those people that are like, oh, well, I don't know what that means, so I'm done talking to you. But there's also the people that are worth having around are like, oh, well, that's intriguing. What does that mean? And then you deep dive into a conversation about what you do.
Right. I have to say that I don't. My experiences have been a little not as great, honestly. Even to this day, like I mostly play video games as a form of I don't want to say escape because my life is not that bad. I do it for as a form of entertainment. It's my main form of entertainment. Like a lot of people will spend and watch 4 hours of what's that show called with the woman in the show?
Oh, that could be anything.
Housewives. Yeah, like Housewives of Atlanta. Like they'll consume 3-4 episodes or binge watch the new Watchmen show or whatever. Just insert whatever name you want into it. Me, I can't do that. I could watch maybe an episode.
You need something more interactive,
right? So I need something that I can manipulate. I can I can send something in it. It can change. It can reflect back, and I can. It stimulates my mind. It's like it's constantly evolving. It's problem solving and involved. I find it entertaining. So the mere fact that I can spend, however, 3, 4, 5, and if I'm not keeping track, I'll spend 6, 7 hours doing this, and I'm just like, wait, what the hell did my day go? Like shit.
Well, from a competing standpoint, that was rookie numbers.
No, I completely agree. Like I am not professional at all. At all, I'm not. I've never even pretended to be professional. And I think more than others, I'm more aware of the numbers that needs to be put in to be considered professional. And I knew very early on that I knew like once those numbers started becoming more of a accessible to more gamers, I looked in the mirror like, yeah, that's not me. I can't spend.
It is a very big time commitment, or it definitely can be. Like if I'm taking a stretch where I'm competing in a game, right, and not just doing the regular content creation route. Like when I'm doing content, I'm doing like maybe 6 to 8 hours, like a regular work day, pretty much, right? And that includes like both a 4 to 5 hour stream and like 2 to 3 hours both for like YouTube content and like social media networking. But if I'm competing and my goal is to win a tournament or to place well or like coaching, like I've done a little bit of coaching here and there now that I just don't have the same time investment. But you're looking at 12, 14-hour days. And none of this is like salaried. It's all based on placing well, really, when it comes to competing.
It's very similar to that of professional. And I don't even want to say professional, but I want to say like physical sports, where
Yeah.
a lot of times within the training camps of any professional sports, they're not being paid. You know, no one's paying you to do curls. No one's paying you to run 10 miles. No one's paying you to do this. You only get paid when you win that competition, when you win the championship, when you do whatever you need to do. You know, other than like the NBA, the NFL, and some of these other organized competitions, that's the only times that they get paid even throughout the training sessions. But other jobs like, let's say, MMA or boxing or in some of these combat sports, you don't get paid while you train. No one's even looking at you. So this is very similar to eSports gamers, where it's like you have to train. You have to put in the hours.
Yeah. Now, with that said, there is a little bit of like leeway to that point of view, in the sense of if you're doing well consistently, or if you're pulling a large audience with like content creation, you do get approached basically by either that be like an organization willing to pay you a salary to represent them, or if you're approached by individual companies that are trying to push a product to sponsor you, in the sense of, hey, we'll give you X amount of product and a creator code that'll give consumers discounts if you promote our product.
So I have to ask you, when it comes to being approached, when you say that, I'm thinking like a guy in a trench coat with a and he just comes up to you like, hey, you know, you wanna promote?
Well, I will go out on a limb. I'm not going to say any names on some of the messages that I've got, but some of them can be kind of shady in that sense.
Like the African Prince. I have $1,000 for you if you.
That's the thing about like modern esports or content creation in a nutshell. It's very easy to get kind of lumped in with that. With like the essential oils type of approach of like, hey, we've got this product, why don't you buy it and then resell it, and that kind of nature
Lord.
of business. And it's very easy to fall into pyramid schemes like that if you don't know what to look out for.
You know, it's amazing. You know, this is off topic, but it's amazing how pyramid schemes have endured.
It's a new prevalence. It's almost like they've had another boom.
Yeah, they've endured. Out of all the shady businesses out there, pyramid schemes have endured throughout the decades. Like, they just morph into other things and other ways to catch people.
And like every younger competitor or content creator that's ever asked me for advice, my usual go-to is, if you have to buy a product to get sponsored by it, that's not a sponsorship. That's a pyramid scheme. That's you're not a partner. You are a consumer.
Hey Rosie, return those products, man. I don't think they're gonna sponsor me.
But I know we went off on a tangent there a little bit, but
no, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, I think this is information both for people who are not gamers, people who are gamers, people who just thinking about becoming gamers, people who are used to be gamers and never got that far into it to know this kind of information.
The landscape has definitely changed over time.
That's true,
for
but
sure.
At least knowing the history and knowing something about it, like, oh, why I never knew that. Like, I was that close. I got approached by the African Prince, and I didn't go forward because I didn't trust him. I just deleted the email. There's that one woman out there that's like about to make a decision to date a pro gamer, and she doesn't know what the hell to expect. She don't know what kind of questions to ask. And she don't want to, embarrass him or anything like that. So these are all good information. We don't know what's going to be good information for people at the end of the day. We just kind of say what our piece is. For me, I don't know if I mentioned this, but when it comes to being taken serious, like to this day, I don't think I'm being taken. I'm taken serious. Like if I'm playing a video game and Rosie is like, oh, you're doing that again? Oh, Lord. Oh,
right. Well, I mean, even from like a dating aspect, if you're doing it semi full time like I am, it's even though I mentioned earlier that it does like intrigue some and it carries on into further conversation. It's very hard to get out of that like stereotypical, if you're a gamer, you're in your mother's basement and you're playing WoW, and it's like most
Nothing
people
wrong with WoW. Nothing wrong with WoW, but
nothing wrong with WoW, but it's like
it's a stigma.
Most people default to that South Park episode.
Yeah,
right.
It's a good episode
in modern times. Anyway, I thought it was a fantastic episode. It definitely, there are people like that. I think across like multiple scenes, but that's not like the stereotypical, like on average, that's not your average professional gamer.
Not nowadays, anyways.
No, not nowadays.
Especially
right.
now, you can actually see them. You know they have video. You can see exactly what they're doing. You see some of the equipment that they're using. You can see their where they live. Like you get so much information about a person's personal life just by looking at their stream. Obviously, some of it might be I don't want to say fake, but manufactured. They might just purposely paint their hair green or something.
Well, I think in a sense that's social media culture at large. Not so much like tailored to streaming, but like how often do you find yourself comparing yourself, and this isn't directed as much as like you but to the listeners, but how often do you find yourself comparing your life to like X on Instagram? That's the thing about like social media culture is
that's just rampant.
And with streaming too, to an extent, it's like people are only really presenting their best version of themselves. So it's very easy to feel like you're not adequate when you're comparing your, day in, day out to the best version of somebody else, right? And I don't think that's so much as like a gaming thing in the sense of like manufacturing as much as social media in general.
I remember a while back. I remember seeing. I think it was a Reddit article about professional gamers purposely putting certain things within the view of their Twitch live just to spark certain interests, like cat, whatever ornaments or certain things that it would get certain viewers like, oh, she likes cats, so let me. Or I remember actually, this is a more accurate account actually, the whole situation with Twitch where female streamers were showing or using sex as a tool to get certain streams or to get certain content more available.
You're talking about the just chatting debacle.
Yeah, so using certain tactics where it's like that this may attract certain people or it may boost your numbers by doing this, whether it is showing some cleavage or just hanging a cat ornament on somewhere.
Doing streaming for the last 6 months, I will say that I have dogs.
You show cleavage?
Well, I would if I could. I'd show that. I'd show that all day if I had it.
But dirty nipple, just like ah.
But I will say that I have dogs, and a lot of the questions that I do get in chat and a lot of the chat interaction is about my animals. So I do think that to an extent, and obviously I'm sure it being a business and all, I do assume that some people do manufacture those kind of interactions, but I don't think it's as rampant as people make it out to believe. Like when people tune into my stream and they're seeing my if I'm streaming with webcam that day, it's a window into my life. It's a window directly into my room. Heck, you can see my bed where I sleep at night in the camera. And
just make sure you clean it up and dress it.
Right. Yeah. But it's like, I think it's a more personable form of entertainment in the sense of like you're going to have some of those like over over engineered or over manufactured type of approaches, like especially with like AAA title streams of like tournament coverage, that's going to be pretty overproduced. But a lot of it on like day-to-day stream levels is just, it's a window into my life, and this is what we're doing today. We're going to play some video games.
And you're going to watch me play those video games.
Well, I do a fair amount of viewer streams, so it's a little bit of give and take.
What is viewer streams?
A viewer stream in the sense of like right now, one of my main games is Escape from Tarkov, which is it's a survival-esque like rogue style of game in the sense that it's very unforgiving. So like a lot of times I'll have viewers that come and ask questions about the game because I'm pretty good at it. And if they're having trouble with something, then I'll load up the game and play with them to help them get past a point that they're kind of stuck on. Oh. And that would be like a viewer stream. It's like today, if you're tuning into the stream and you have some issues and you're trying to get past a certain portion of the game, hit me up and we'll try to get through it together, kind of thing.
Okay, so it's like interactive to the next level, basically.
Right.
That has never been the same. That's more recently, if I'm not mistaken. I don't recall.
There's been I want to say back in November, I believe, they added a function to Twitch, which is called like channel points, right? And channel points means that you accrue points over time while watching a streamer, and you can collect those points and be able to redeem them for prizes. So I made that one of my prizes, that if you watch me for an X amount of time and accrue a certain amount of points, you can redeem that to play a game with me, type of thing. And I think that's one of the neater tools for smaller channels that Twitch has implemented, in the sense of like being able to drive that community interaction a little bit better.
I guess Twitch is doing a lot of things to really foster that relationship between content creators and people who want to consume the content. Because I can't remember before Twitch any company that really helped foster that relationship, other than YouTube.
Well,
but even it's different.
YouTube has like a different approach. Fwiz, which is the head of YouTube Gaming, I've interacted with him a little bit. He's really driving the fact that YouTube Gaming is the largest, even bigger than Twitch, avenue for content creators. I do think that they have a little bit of a ways to go, in the sense of like their UI and stuff on the website is a little bit tricky to navigate, especially if you're looking for a stream rather than a video. Mixer has a really interactive system. Microsoft's streaming platform, they have a really interactive system. But when it comes down to it, like on a smaller content creator's point of view, like if you're not partnered with like an organization or multiple different companies, most of your revenue is going to be coming through your stream. And I think Twitch has done it best so far with being able to monetize that.
Interesting. I remember back in early history, was there any company before Twitch that was doing what Twitch was doing?
A little bit, not to the same extent. Twitch started out as Justin TV before it became Twitch. That was more of like a rebrand rather than like a complete change of infrastructure.
Okay.
There was another company that was kind of doing the same thing called Owned TV, that it folded in 2013, I believe. And most of the content creators that were big on Owned came over to Twitch. So Twitch has been like the reigning champion for quite some time now.
Okay.
But it's just like in the last, I want to say like year, probably in the last year, that YouTube and Mixer has really been giving Twitch for a run for its money.
people are catching on to the advantages of having certain usership on their platform instead of being on other people's platforms.
Right. I mean, we're just now seeing this year alone. We've seen, or well, I say this year, but it's more 2019 at this point. We saw a lot of exclusivity deals come out. Like Ninja signed an exclusivity deal with Mixer. Shroud signed an exclusivity deal with Mixer. Courage JD signed an exclusivity deal with YouTube. So there's a lot of money being thrown around in the sense of like these very large cream of the crop content creators are being pulled from their main brand, which was Twitch at the time. All three of these came from Twitch, being pulled to other sources of streaming content because they're being seen as, good investments for marketing purposes.
I mean, it's like you pretty much said, though, even though they're catching up, I think they have a long ways to go. I think Twitch have integrated themselves within a very large space within the gaming community, within the developers themselves, where they're inserting certain options in the options to insert your Twitch ID, to have it live while you're playing the video game, and give you discounts for attaching your Twitch to their video game. So it's like, it's not just the user side of things, it's also the developer side of things, of like people who are making these games are partnering up with the user contents to get their content out there using you as a conduit.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. Like Twitch is synonymous with streaming at this point, especially like in the video game space. Like, to the extent where like if you say that you stream, people's instant reaction is like, "Oh, what's your Twitch channel?" That's how far ahead Twitch is right now from the competitors. In the sense, like it's not just like you said, it's not only integrated at the developer and the viewer standpoint, but like from the streaming standpoint as well, is Twitch is usually the innovator of new features for both like a broadcaster and a viewer. Like the channel points, like I stated before, that's pretty much the exception to that rule because that started on Mixer previously. But you think about like squad streams and all these other features that for broadcasters that pretty much originated on Twitch. So they're not only like ahead of the pack in their field, but they're also consistently innovating.
And I also want to make a comparison for some of our listeners to know that what's happening right now within the esports and gaming world when it comes to monetization is also happening and has happened already within the podcast world. It's too. There's a lot of agencies and companies out there who are now looking at the podcast world as, well, we can make money out of this. Let's pay X person X amount of money a year to let them do their thing. All we're gonna do is we're gonna give them a studio. We're gonna give them the space. We're gonna give them this. We're gonna sponsor them. But that will slowly start shifting. They will start slowly. Well, maybe you shouldn't say this word. Don't say fuck, because it may affect your viewership, and then slowly they start creeping into your content. But nonetheless, certain people take those deals because the money that they throw at you is insurmountable. Like, it's just, they throw millions at you. And if you're a content creator, let's say, for example, me, if Disney walks in my door right now, be like, hey, listen, we're going to give you $10 million to do pretty much what you do on a larger scale. I don't think I can say no to that. That's $10 million. Like, I'm right now in my living room.
I tell you what, Disney offered me $10 million, and I can't say the word fuck. Every other fucking word, every other word in my stream is just going to be a big old beep.
I mean, it's just one of those things, though. It's like you got to make that decision of like, should I take the money? Should I not take the money? And then what can I, as a result? What would be the results of that? But a lot of companies are investing millions of dollars in creating podcasts of their own. They're creating podcasts, and you can't tell the difference. The only times you can tell is, baby, if you know that podcast just exists as an independent. And then it's like, wait, right. They used to well, the guy used to say fuck a lot. Now he doesn't say fuck no more. Like, what's going on? All of a sudden, you start seeing his videos. They look more shiny. His studio space is bigger. All of a sudden, he has like overlays going flying by. And...
To touch on like that, like you said, the history of like sponsorships and stuff like that in a gaming context, right? Is 10 years ago, I was making like $400 a month just for being good at a video game. This is before, you know, YouTube was really huge. This is before streaming was even a fucking like thought. And you just got paid for being good.
Paid by who?
Just the organization that you partnered with. So It's like, basically it was like in the Stone Age, back in the day when we all wrote on cave walls, in gaming standards anyway, organizations that wanted to be known as being good, right? Wanted to be the best at the game. They would give you money if you were the best at the game so that you would tack their name in front of your name. So when I was playing Call of Duty 4, for instance, this is back in like 2008, 2009, you could get money just for winning things on top of like tournament winnings. So like you would get, if you were representing an organization, you would be paid a salary, a monthly salary for representing that organization on top of your tournament winnings. Nowadays, there's so much more to it. Like, you don't get paid just for being good. I know personally some very, very good mechanical players that are not signed to organizations because they don't bring enough to the table. So
like streaming, content creation,
right? Like, you got to get your social
appearances.
media numbers up. You've got to get, you know, your stream has got to be pulling good viewership. Like, there's so much more stipulations to being picked up by an organization or being counted as a success story in modern day gaming compared to 10 years ago, when as long as you were winning shit, no one cared. No one cared what you were doing in your personal life. As long as you were winning, you got paid.
I find it so similar and so uniquely similar actually to the evolution of MMA. And I don't know if you follow MMA, but
I follow it very, very like vaguely. Like, I'll watch the big fights.
Okay.
But I most of my exposure to MMA has just been through Joe Rogan.
Okay. So, I mean, and that's a pretty good exposure. He's a very big component of that world. But just the history of MMA is almost identical to that of the eSports, where first you start off with one mechanic. You're very good at the game, thus you get paid. Then, as time evolves, other people get good at the games, and it's no longer same value. So now you gotta then throw in something else. Oh, I'm good at social media too. So now you're good at the game and you're good at social media. Then you create content. So MMA is similar to that, where at first it used to be one style of combat. We used to reign them all. Next you know, someone added another style and another style and another style. Next you know, now at this day and age, you can't just be good at, for example, fighting on your feet. You gotta be good at the ground.
Good at kickboxing. Now you gotta learn jujitsu.
Yeah, you gotta learn ground defense, wrestling. You gotta learn how to defend against the submissions. So it's the same way as esports. You gotta know how to content create. You gotta know how to be good at the game. You gotta then juggle your time and make sure you're on social medias. And then all these other things where it's identical to that of what a fighter goes through these days when it comes to training for an MMA fight or training to be a professional MMA fighter. It's like, get good or go home.
But I will say, like, that strict comparison between something as widespread as MMA compared to like esports is there is almost a direct need for a players union in esports.
Interesting.
There's I'm sure, like, at this point I've mentioned organizations as a whole a fair amount, and that is like your ticket, like, right, that's your ticket to being able to make a living in a
Let
lot
me
of
ask you a question.
situations.
Before we go into that, I'm not going to steer you away from this topic, but with that being said, are there sports players have something called an agent?
Oh, if you're talking about like an agent for like a player.
Yeah, like
Yeah. There,
Okay.
there's a couple of agencies that are pretty widely known as being good. But the downside is there's some agencies that are known for being bad, and that's the same way with organizations. There's so much unregulated territory in esports that one of like my go-to responses when someone says, "Oh, I got offered a contract to play for such and such organization," have a lawyer look over it, which you should do with any contract, right?
Yeah.
But to express to like a 17 and 18-year-old how important that is, it's a difficult task.
Well, does the 17 or 18-year-old have access to a lawyer? That's the first question.
Well, that's why I would like to see a players union implemented across multiple titles. Like obviously, like Fortnite would have like one players union, or like Apex Legends would have another. That would be too convoluted. I think that there should just be a widespread esports players union in the sense of if you're pursuing esports competitively, and that's what you want that to be your sole focus, be able to pay your dues and be represented properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would give the 17 and the 18-year-olds their access to a lawyer. That would give agencies their validation in the sense of like, you're not going to sign with Fred down the street that wants to be your agent and he doesn't know the first thing about what he's doing.
But Fred could get you that deal though.
If it's very possible he does, but there's more of a likelihood that he doesn't.
Just like me, you just gotta buy those 3 snow globes, to get
right.
in.
There's a lot of like you said earlier, the Nigerian prince type of scandals. There's a lot of that can float around in the back channels that just doesn't get looked at.
I think we can't overlook the importance, and I think it's not considered this because people have not just paid enough attention to it, but the underlining issue of child labor in this field. You have to understand that even though you are playing a video game,
it's still work.
Technically it's still work. Like you're still spending 12 hours marketing a video game, marketing a content, or you're just pushing this thing into the world where this child who may have 16, and let's be by all means, an 18-year-old is an adult, but anything under an 18-year-old is a child under the law. And there's certain stipulations based on what state you live, whether or not you can work, do you need a permit, blah 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 blah. But
correct,
there's some 14-year-olds out there who right now have thousands of viewership. They might have a contract. They might have all these things, and they have revenue. And some of their parents have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of like a grander scale than a lot of people realize. Like you look at just last year, FaZe, which is an organization based out of, I believe, California.
Of course.
They got into some heat for signing a 12-year-old. Now, the 12-year-old has some of the greatest potential I've seen in a competitor in a long time. I think give them a little bit time to age and mature and to meet not only the requirements for being signed to an organization legally, but also to be able to compete legally, because the cutoff is 13. But they signed him early at 12, which was a gray area. Now, that's just like one small snippet of esports culture. There's a ton of these underage individuals, these underage competitors that are winning. Like, I'm going to look it up right now, but take the Fortnite World Cup, for instance.
That's rampant, bro.
The Fortnite World Cup was a $30 million prize pool.
And that's just the that's the winning pool. That's not even the money. That's
not sponsorships.
Yeah,
That's not viewership. That's not.
And that's not even the money that the company got itself for holding the event.
Exactly. So that's just the prize pool for competing. Booga, which is the person who won the solo tournament, won $3 million at the age of 17. When he won, he was 16 years old. He just turned 17. I'm looking it up right now. He turned 17 a day after I turned 27. He won $3 million at 16 years old. And you tell me that, like, that doesn't suggest that, he should be represented
legally,
proportionately?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you got to think about, does that 17-year-old know what to do with that $3 million? Is that taxes and all this other stuff that you got to take in consideration? Yeah, he has the money to where he can hire certain people now, but there's a lot of stipulation that come into the situation.
To give the benefit of the doubt, he was, at the time of him competing and winning the World Cup, he was signed to a pretty reputable org. Like, they're pretty well respected. They seem to do it pretty well by the books. I'm friends with a couple of their players, and he was in the best situation possible at the time without a players union or self-representation legally. But say it wasn't Booga that won, right? Say it was little Timmy who signed with like a tier 3 or a tier 4 org that's shady as hell and is going to take 80% of his prize pool winnings. But because he signed a contract, they're fully legally entitled to. Because little Timmy can't afford the money for a lawyer to look over that contract. And everybody's going to say, oh, well, he probably shouldn't have signed the contract in the first place, which is very, that's a completely valid standpoint.
But it's also a valid standpoint that why are you giving a contract for a 13-year-old?
Exactly. On the other hand, why is that organization allowed to be able to present a shady contract, one that's going to be heavily favoring them, to someone who's going to be the age of 14, 15, 16, looking for that validation to be able to say, hey, I'm signed to an organization to play competitively? For
the last, I want to say 5 years, I could be completely off about this, but within the last 5 years, there's been a surge in advocacy for the NCAA. The people collegiate Players Association. Basically to get the college players to be paid for the multi-billion-dollar business that is the NCAA. Whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's hockey, whatever the case may be, there's college players who their only form of payment is you get to go to the school for free. Yet you can't use your own name. You can't use your own abilities to make money off the record of it, because then that's infringement upon the NCAA. And I think for the last 5 years, there's been a resurgence of like, no, these players should get paid. And I think if I'm not mistaken, some laws have been passed to say, no, these guys need to get a certain amount of revenue from these bowls, from some of these marketing deals, from some of these revenue streams that both colleges and promoters are receiving. Now, to turn this back to esports, I think that needs to happen on this side of the aisle as well. And I don't think enough people know enough about what's going on in the esports to really make a great impact on it yet.
Right. Well, I think to an extent, players that are excelling in their field, they do have that opportunity more so than like a collegiate sports type of situation. I think at its core, the whole NCAA argument is kind of a greater issue at large that doesn't really touch on the topics that we're talking about today. I think that's more of an issue at large at like, how much does a university or a college really need to be making off of their players when they're already making 300, 400% tuition compared to just 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I don't want to give the illusion to anyone out there that I'm comparing apples and oranges. What I'm saying is that I think the same level of attention and knowledge and care that some of these other topics have been given needs to start then now being looked at esports as well, because
okay. I misunderstood. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I agree.
it's like that resurgence from 5 years ago has slowly been increasing throughout the years, where people are now sitting there saying like, yeah, this is bullshit. Why are they not getting paid? Like, yeah, we need to change the laws, whatever, da 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 da. But that same attention now needs to then go, whenever it's done. I don't know the situation in the NCAA, but that attention also needs to be now on e-game, and some of the young generations and even some of the current generations now potentially being ripped off, or being in certain situations that they're not technically allowed to make decisions. Like, I don't think legally a 13-year-old can make decisions financially for themselves. It's just, in most cases, you would think about like, well, no, that's impossible. In most decisions.
I would go so far to say as like you look at any other form of like an employer-employee contract. Like, I don't want to talk out of school because I don't know about like my state's laws compared to the next, but I think the youngest you're allowed to work where I live is like 14 or 15.
It's 16 in New York.
And well, I think it's 14 to 15 with like stipulations, right? It's like you can only work from set time to set time kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's just very very odd in the sense of being almost like it's almost like a gerrymandering type of deal where like if as long as like the company is based in a certain area, that's the laws they abide by.
Not knowing that this company may have offices in like 8 different states, and they just move around their headquarters wherever they see fit.
Well, I mean, that's the big issue of corporations are people, Manny.
This conversation is gonna turn turn political, and then some of our good friends are gonna start popping into this conversation like, hey, wait, you guys some of this?
I see you busy sweating already.
So I mean, it's been a long conversation, and I think some of our viewers and listeners probably are saying they're like, guys, like, we have no idea what the hell you guys are talking about. But
yeah, we're just all talking gaming. We're
but
supposed to be talking about everything.
I want to really drill it home for people who are listening that this is just a small tip of the iceberg, which is eSports. And I think if you want to learn more, reach out to some of these guys, like my guest here, Jarred, and some of these guys who've been in the field for years and know somewhat about the navigation. And for some of you new players out there that are planning on like, hey, let me get into this, reach out to someone who you feel like has been out there for a while and be like, hey, listen, I just want to get to know the lines. I think mentorship is not just for the professional world where not the professional world, but the actual, like, if you're a plumber or if you're an electricianist or if you are a psychologist or whatever you are, mentorship is across the board, whether it's that kind of work or if you're a fisherman or if you're just an esports gamer. Like, sometimes you need someone who's been in the field long enough to look, hey, listen, what do you know about this? What should I do in this situation? And I'm sure there's people out there that may give you that opportunity to kind of like mentor you and kind of let you know what's going on and just be part of that life and that social network. Just because you behind a computer don't mean that you should not network.
Yeah, I mean, just to give insight into that is like, even to this day, like, if I get approached by a company that I'm not familiar with, I message people that I know through networking via like Twitter or other social medias that we are both focusing on like the same approach. And I'll just get insight. Like, I'll be like, hey, what do you know about X company? Or what do you think about like this type of approach to like this video idea or this type of content approach. Like it's not the same like shut out type of environment that you would expect from like, oh, I'm going to get mine and I'm going to make sure nobody else succeeds down the path that I want to go. We're all in it together and we're just trying to support each other.
And please, for anyone out there listening, if you're not sure what's happening, if you're not sure what paper they're trying to give you to sign, don't sign it until you have a lawyer read it. If you don't know what a lawyer is, Google it. For Jesus Christ, Google it. I mean, it's not that hard. Like, the amount of people I know out there that's like, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know where to find that. I'm like, bro, come on. You have a supercomputer in your pocket. Google it. Like, that's all you have to do. And if for some of you guys out there that don't want to like Google because they're tracing you, whatever the case may be, your conspiracy theories, DuckDuckGo. I don't like whatever. Like, there's ways to find information that's readily available to you so you can learn, know what's going on, and make the appropriate decisions. So we've been at this for a while. Any final tips for new players like me on how to get as good as you?
Well, that comes down. I don't want to say it's down to like time investment, because I'm one of those type of players that has been able to move from title to title and perform very well.
Yes, I've put in time and I still suck. Like, what can I do?
I think a lot of it comes down to prioritizing and efficient practice. Like, it's very easy to put in like a 10-hour day and expect to get better, but it's a lot harder to set yourself to, I'm going to specifically focus on this particular aspect of my game for 2 hours today.
Okay.
So whether that be like reaction time or strategizing, just every day pick something new that you want to work on and better yourself at, and just set 2 hours aside and just do it.
All right. I mean, hey, I'm gonna see. I don't think I've ever done that, so it's probably why I'm not good. I'm more like, let's just play for 3 hours and let's just do it. Whatever. I've never paid that close attention to the actual details of on certain particular, even within whatever the game is. Like, I'll give a good example. I used to play a game called Rocket League, and Rocket League is by far, it has been, and I don't know if it currently is, but one of the most competitive games when it comes to just pure acrobatics in the game.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
no, it's still very relevant.
Certain I've seen certain people play that game in a way where it's like, how are you even doing that? But, you know, knowing the amount of practice that they probably put into a specific task in that game, like jumping or hitting or blocking, and so all these things that you're saying it's 100% true. Any final messages you want to give to the people out there listening about either esports, you in general, or just whatever?
I think the final message would be to take away, and this isn't for someone who's in a specific scenario. I think the biggest thing when it comes to modern dating, and especially if you're in like a work from home environment, is you just gotta really be happy with your own company. It's very easy to go into like online dating or meeting someone for the first time, and kind of force the issue, even if it's not really checking all of your boxes, right? There's no sense in like being like forcing yourself into like a relationship that you're not happy with, and a lot of it just comes down to like, be comfortable being yourself and being alone if that's like what it takes for yourself to be happy. Like, don't go grasping at straws trying to make something work if it's not leading you to a better place, I guess.
There you go. Anyone listen out there, please take his advice. Like always, you know, take one day at a time, and if all else fails, use your mouth, communicate, talk about it. You know what I mean? A lot of these issues that we all have, the day-to-day lives, is as simple as talking to someone about it. Whether you're, regardless if it's your parents, your friends, your professional people that you work with, people online. I've found it many times that I find myself talking to some of my online friends and saying, "Hey, listen, have you experienced certain things? Like, what do you think about this?" You know, sometimes allowing you to process some of the shit that's going on in your life allows you to make better decisions overall. That being said, thank you so much, Jarred, for being on Flattering Thoughts podcast, Manpisode, whatever. Once again, just for the people, I mean, if you're tuning in now, you better just go back a whole hour and catch the whole conversation. But for those of you tuning in now, which I don't know how you are, but I have here today Jarred Skoot Sammons. All right, he's a 10-year veteran who has been involved with games, all kind of games, Call of Duty, Ring of Elysium, Apex Legends, Battalion, goes on, it goes on. And you can catch him on Twitch at SK00TN. That's SK00, which is 00 TN. His Twitter handle is also the same thing. He is also the co-host of the podcast Crucible Cast. And we didn't talk too much about that, but maybe next time you can come on and you can talk a little bit more about that.
I'm hoping some things will come to light soon, and I'll be able to talk about more.
Awesome.
That. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Awesome. And like always, it's always nice to talk to a fellow podcaster, a fellow player, a fellow content creator, and that's pretty much it, guys.